So you say another thing, this is while you're in law school, is you have to study, read, memorize, love reading, learning, and be good at tests. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, as I mentioned before, you really have to be aware of the cases and what they mean, and how to differentiate one case from another. Because if the appeals court says that there's a new law, but it only applies in one specific situation, you want to know where that law applies, whether it's the next specific situation that comes up or not. So you're constantly reading and analyzing cases to see and to practice how to apply them to the new situations that come up.
You have to be pretty darn sharp to study, get through law school. Right? I mean, you have to really be able to read analytically and pull things apart and be logical in your thinking.
You have to be very able to read. You have to really like reading because you have to do so much of it. And you have to analyze what you read, and you really have to dissect what you read.
Yeah, okay.
And study and memorize.
Well, we got to the next one here. Study for the bar exam. Now, tell us about that. That's got to be a nerve-wracking experience.
We all said, and I'm certainly one who said it, that it's the worst thing I ever did to myself on purpose. I mean, taking the bar is a nightmare.
How long did you have to study for? I mean, it's the ultimate test, I guess, right?
I actually took 2.5 months off from work and did nothing but eat, sleep, and study. That was it.
Did your friends quiz you?
I told everybody I knew. I had friends who were studying also, who we would come and study. We would go and study together. But everyone I knew was told, "Don't even call."
Oh, really?
Yes.
You didn't have pop quizzes where they called and say, "What's a tort? Quick." I think it's a pastry. No, it's not a pastry.
I think they would have liked to do that, yeah.
All right, so take and pass the bar exam.
Well, we talked a little bit about that already.
But now taking it, how long does this thing go on? I mean, is it like a day, half a day?
The bar exam itself is actually 3 days long. And one of the biggest things you have to do is pace yourself and figure out your stamina. So that they tell you better get on some kind of exercise regime so that you can have enough stamina to actually go through these 3 days.
Wow.
Because it is 3 intense days of your writing, your thinking, and you have to be on all the time.
Wow, wow. And you probably if you thought you weren't doing well in one area, maybe even be cramming the evening, or can you study at night for the next day? Maybe that's not
probably not. Probably not.
Right.
But people even bring their little teddy bears. They bring anything for good luck. They're lucky stones. It's remarkable.
Okay. You have to obtain bar membership, and then you recommend an internship. But obtain bar membership, what is that?
Okay. Most people know about going to law school and about passing the bar exam. But what many people don't realize is there are also regulated other steps that you need to take. Believe it or not, because I know there are a lot of lawyer jokes to the contrary.
No, there are no lawyer jokes.
You have to have acceptable moral character determination. And each lawyer is investigated prior to being allowed to become a member of the bar. That's one piece. The other piece is that you have to take and pass a professional responsibility and ethics examination. Wow. And you also have to take an oath of attorney, an attorney's oath, usually in front of a judge. But that also regulated is who can administer the oath. Judges can.
I'm going to have to cut you off just a bit because we want to make sure we get to the next part. And I just want to mention, you recommend an internship, or is that required?
Recommend.
Okay.
It is not required.
Okay, but it's always a good thing in any kind of job.
It's always a good thing.
Now, the next graphic we're going to show people is the skills lawyers have to have. There might be somebody sitting out there saying, do I have the personality and skill set in order to be an effective attorney? And you have a little list of them here. So, analyze and persuade. Why don't we take the first two together? Analyze
and persuade. Well, as you can imagine, when you are trying to convince someone in front of a court, you need to be able to have good, compelling arguments, but you also need to be able to persuade people that your arguments are correct. And I mentioned some characteristics of a trial attorney before that are special. You have to be able to think on your feet, which may be may be later on that.
As well,
but I'll bring it up now.
That's fine.
You have to be able to think on your feet, and you have to be very quick and dramatic, and you have to know how to play your audience. So those are trial lawyer characteristics.
But you also, even if you're not a trial lawyer, you probably have to be persuasive in your writing as well, right? If you were writing something, you're trying to
absolutely
know how to communicate in written form as well, right?
You have to be persuasive in writing, and if you're a transactional attorney, which we talked about contracts, you need to be persuasive in your negotiations, because a big part of doing transactional work is negotiations or defending your position.
Wow, okay. Be articulate. We said think on your feet. Be articulate.
Be articulate is be clear. You have to be very clear and precise so that people really know once they read something or once it's expressed what is meant, and they can follow it.
Okay. So it's a pretty logical person, huh? Be able to think.
Pretty logical, pretty communicative.
Read and keep up with the new laws.
Well, as I mentioned,
you were saying they change every day.
They change every day, and you're responsible. Lawyers are responsible for knowing the laws. You've heard of malpractice insurance, right? So you're responsible to know the laws that come up. So you got to read. You got to subscribe to journals. You've got to take classes.
It's a lot like law school, right? Because the next one's focus and work intensely. It sounds like you're still in law school.
Yep.
But you are. You're learning.
You're continually learning and taking in more information.
Wow. Have a good memory.
Well, you don't have to memorize everything. You couldn't. But what you do have to have a good memory for is that something exists. So,
and maybe where to lay your hands on it quickly.
And where to lay your hands on it. So if you remember, oh, wait a minute, I know there's something about that I need to pay attention to, then you know that you have to go look at something.
Maybe get on your cell phone to your paralegal.
Exactly. Yeah, get on your cell phone to your paralegal.
Tolerate lawyer jokes. That's what you put.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I actually don't have a problem with most lawyer jokes. Certainly no more problem than I have with any other kind of jokes. But many lawyers do, and there certainly are a lot of them out there.
Okay, so since we quickly brought up paralegals, why don't we talk about what is a paralegal and what they do? There might be somebody out there that isn't going to go the full-blown route of becoming an attorney, but still is interested in the law. So can you talk a little bit about what they do? Sure.
Paralegals do almost anything, and almost is the operative word here, that a lawyer might do. They cannot give legal advice. They can't practice before a court. But they can do things like administrative work, write contracts, research law, help with tax preparation. They can do all those things if they've been trained to do that. I actually depend on my paralegal and have really loved having them over the years. They're incredibly helpful and indispensable.
Did that match? If somebody was in the middle of a case and knew there was a precedent, would they get on the phone with somebody and say, look up something or other, and then rush it down to the court or something if they were actually in a trial? Or would they go off and do it themselves? Or
generally they would have other people looking stuff up while they were in a trial.
Other attorneys, or would a paralegal ever get involved in that?
Oh, they could, yes. They could. But they supposedly would have done a lot of that research beforehand.
I was just thinking of something that came up. So how does somebody become a paralegal? What do they have to do to... Is that a lot of study or just...
Well, unlike lawyers, there are no legal requirements for becoming a paralegal. So it's just what will get you the job the best. Mm-hmm. And the most commonly recognized trend right now is a 2-year associate degree program that has a certificate of paralegal studies involved with it. But there are also 4-year programs in accredited schools. And some paralegals even have JDs. They just didn't bother passing the bar. Some paralegals have no schooling. They just have been associated with attorneys for so long. Maybe they started as a secretary that they have learned on the job. That's a little bit harder if you want to go out and get a job from scratch that way. So generally speaking, it would be a 2-year degree that...
Yeah, some of my clients have gotten those 2-year degrees, and then they try to get an internship so that they can actually be doing the work and get the recommendations from inside.
And that's what's generally common right now.